A follower reached out to me the other day and said, how can I cope with everything that's going on in the world right now? Which I think is such an understandable question and something that we're all struggling with. And the answer is resilience. We need to build resilience within ourselves. We need to nurture our nervous systems so that even though things are chaotic or frenzied or terrifying, we don't spin out. We can find the calm within ourselves so that we can continue to feel strong and empowered in spite of what's going on around us. So today we're going to talk about resilience, which is really bouncing back after difficult times, after a stressful encounter. It's the way in which we are able to recover from something that kind of spins us out. One way to look at this is the window of tolerance. This is a concept that was brought by Dr. Dan Siegel. And basically it says that we all have a window of tolerance, our ability to interact with one another, to be calm, to be productive, to communicate effectively, all of these wonderful things. Basically where we want to be all day, every day. But often things will happen that will either send us spiking up into hyperarousal, which is that state of panic or anxiety, our heart is racing, all of those really sort of spun up, aroused states. Or we can fall down out of the window of tolerance into hypoarousal. And that's that collapsed, no energy, shut down place that can often even include disassociation or loss of memory. All of those things that just make us feel small and low and tired, which a lot of us have been going through lately. So when we think about our window of tolerance and the things that send us up into hyperarousal or down into hypoarousal, it's useful to recognize that some of us have a really broad window of tolerance, if you think of people who aren't fazed by much, but a lot of us have a small window of tolerance. And when there are these constant chronic stressors happening, our window of tolerance actually gets smaller and smaller, which is why we become more likely to get shot up into hyperarousal or collapse into hypoarousal on a more regular basis. So when we talk about building resilience, we're really talking about broadening our window of tolerance so that fewer things send us up or down. Also, so that when we do get spiked up or collapse down, we're able to come back into our window of tolerance more quickly and more easily. So how do we broaden our window of tolerance? How do we build resilience? The most important thing that I like to have people start with is nourishment and nurturing. N and N. Giving our bodies and our minds the building blocks of wellness. All of the components that we need to feel healthy, to be functioning effectively. So nourishment and nurturing. This can take lots of different forms. You could call it self-care. Self-care is absolutely a part of nourishment and nurturing. It includes things like rest, making sure that we have downtime without guilt and shame. Because guilt and shame are stressors. They're going to put more pressure on our nervous system and narrow our window of tolerance. So wherever possible, we want to let go of the guilt and shame and recognize that we're taking rest in order to soothe our bodies, in order to be more effective and more productive. Rest is so valuable. Also, nutrition, the building blocks of our physical body. That can include adding pieces that might be missing from your diet. It might include letting go of some things that are causing you problems. If you know that every time you eat or drink something, it causes something uncomfortable in your body, maybe find an alternative for that. But really looking at how can we support our bodies in our wellness. And I generally find that adding something can be more sustainable than trying to take something out and then we feel that lack, that loss, that, oh man, I really miss that thing. But if we can add in things like protein, hydration, green vegetables, pick one thing that you know that you're missing, add that back in, and I bet you'll be surprised by how your body responds to that and the ways in which it broadens your window of tolerance. We can also look for opportunities for creative expression, allowing all of the parts of ourselves to come to the surface, to be expressed. So often we let go of things like drawing or painting, making music, cooking sumptuous meals, the things that nourish our hearts and souls, because we get busy or we get distracted or we're going into shutdown mode because we're too stressed out. But if we can find ways to bring back in that creative expression, it's going to be so helpful for our bodies. And also time in nature. Seeing green things, even if it's just a little bit of grass with a tree sticking out of it, studies have shown that our bodies respond so favorably to that. It reduces stress, it boosts our immune system, and of course, it broadens our window of tolerance. Pay attention as you go through your day, as you go through your week. When you notice that you're beginning to spike up into hyperarousal or collapse into hypoarousal, notice that. And ask yourself, what can I do to support my body right now so that I can come back into my window of tolerance? It also might be reaching out to a loved one, co-regulation, connecting with somebody who feels safe and loving is so soothing for our nervous system. As you continue to move forward, as things are continuing to be chaotic and difficult and in some ways very, very scary, think about how you can broaden your window of tolerance and build your resilience. I'm Aurora J. Miller. This was another episode of You Ask, I Answer. Do you have a question? Drop it in the comments or send me a DM. I'm at Aurora J. Miller pretty much everywhere. And if you'd like another dose of hope, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I hope to see you there.